The following program is paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management, providing financial advice since 1993. At Lifespan Wealth Management, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience, and you can learn more about them by visiting their website at retirerelax.com. While you're on the site, visit the special report section, which provides great financial education information on many different topics. You can also sign up to receive their digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money. They also offer seminars to the community at no cost. If you're looking for a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give them a call to discuss the topics you would like them to cover. Again, their contact number is 478-922-8100. Now, from the Macon studio of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, Jonathan Eisner, and Corey Albrecht.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy that you joined us today. I'm excited to be here, and we have a great show lined up for you. Your Money Radio was started about 20 years ago, and we strive to have something interesting for you pertaining to money, life, health, local, state, national, and even global events that affect your life in some manner. If in any way the information we bring forward can help our listeners in some way, we believe we have succeeded. As always, we appreciate the feedback we receive from our listeners, and you can participate in this show by continuing to send Randy specific questions or perhaps a request for us to cover a particular topic on a future broadcast. We understand that last week's show was not broadcasting properly, and a large part of the show was not aired. WMAC is still having problems with their systems. We apologize for that and want to remind everyone that the show is posted on our website, retirerelax.com, so you can listen to it anytime. Anyway, let's get on with the show. So, Randy, why don't you give us a market update?
You bet. The U.S. economy is navigating a period of moderate growth paired with lingering price pressures and holding a real GDP growth rate at 1.5%. While business capital expenditures, primarily driven by the ongoing artificial intelligence and the corporate earnings, remain bright spots, the broader economic landscape is heavily constrained by geopolitical tensions and highly squeezed domestic customers or consumers. In the U.S., sticky inflation continues, and the most recent CPI rose by a modest 1.1% for the month, which is keeping inflation at the 3.4% rate. Despite flat wholesale prices providing some short-term relief, stubborn headline inflation has fueled expectations that the Fed will keep interest rates higher for longer, with occasional market speculation even leaning towards a rate hike. Data shows that there is a clear sign of softening in the labor market. The U.S. economy shed 23,000 jobs in July, with healthcare standing out as one of the few sectors posting notable employment gains.
The ongoing geopolitical friction and warfare with Iran continue to destabilize global energy markets. As you've probably seen, oil prices have been very volatile, which translates to you at the pumps. And globally, economic momentum is very sluggish, and annualized growth is projected at roughly 3%. This drag on the global growth projection is aided by China's recent economic performance, which marked its slowest growth rate in over 3 years. Corey, let's hear some information on the U.S. consumer.
You know, right now, the financial well-being of the average American citizen presents sort of a consumption paradox between their strong spending behavior and their deteriorating underlying sentiment of the economy. Consumer spending accelerated at a 3.2% clip, and this spending has basically kept the economy afloat. The prolonged high-interest rate environment has definitely created pressure on the household budgets, although major banks report stable consumer activity. The persistent inflation pressure means working-class households are feeling the financial pinch.
All right, thank you, Corey. I wanted to tell you about a new and very good restaurant that Sherry and I and some friends went to this past week. The place is called J. Reed, and it's located on Cotton Avenue. And their address is 317 Cotton Avenue, and they are located just a few doors down from Lawrence Mayer Florist and Braddock's Cast and Table. It's a very nice atmosphere, and the food was excellent. So if you're looking for a new place to try out, we encourage you to give them a shot. The owner of this place is the person who had Kinjo, and which was on the corner of Poplar Street and 2nd. That's now Andalusia, which is another good place for you to try out. But we had a great time there. It was a very open environment, and you could have a conversation without having to yell at your table mates.
What kind of food is it?
They had a variety. I had a Korean taco, but they had fish tacos or shrimp tacos. You had a shrimp dish.
Yeah, it was very good.
And it was all. There was a lot of different fare on the menu, but it all went together.
So was it the same theme as Kinjo when you
No.
say Korean?
No.
She did carry some of the flavors in. Matter of fact, the tacos I had were called the Kinjo tacos.
Okay.
Just as a
Homage.
to the Kinjo. But this next week they're having a couple of tribute days to Kinjo, where they're going to serve the top five meals that they served at Kinjo.
Okay.
So we're going to go participate in that. So,
My parents had Andalusias or whatever you said that one was called,
Yeah.
where Kinjo was.
Yeah.
And they were very impressed with it.
Really?
Oh,
They said
good.
it was very good, which you guys have also had, it sounds like.
we have not been to Andalusia yet.
They had
Okay.
a lot of great restaurants downtown. It's pretty amazing, honestly.
But anyway, Jay Reed's on Cotton Avenue.
Cool.
All right. U.S. Startups are finally delivering something researchers have been working on for decades, which is a battery in which rare, hard-to-get elements are replaced with the same stuff found in ordinary table salt. This tech has the potential to help every country on Earth break its dependence on China for batteries and critical minerals that go into them.
It's just amazing.
It is. Like any other battery, sodium-ion cells can store and release energy. They are initially being deployed where they're needed most in America's power grid and fast-expanding crop of data centers. This will give the grid or other infrastructures the ability to stockpile energy when it is cheap and plentiful, and discharge it when it is scarce. And in theory, this could lower the cost of electricity while increasing reliability. While grid battery storage is already growing in the U.S. at a furious pace, new sodium-based batteries are potentially cheaper, longer-lasting, safer, and more reliable than conventional lithium-based ones. They could accelerate the rollout of renewables and be part of a less polluting alternative to natural gas turbines and diesel generators.
Yeah, it's a fascinating technological breakthrough to be sure. Most sodium-based batteries are now made in China and represent less than 1% of all batteries delivered this year. In the U.S., a number of startups have begun producing small numbers of these batteries and are now racing to scale up their production. General Motors is in the process of designing its own sodium-based batteries to tailor them to different applications before moving to mass production. There are some projections that within a decade, more than a third of all batteries produced in the world will use sodium and not lithium. Peak Energy aims to build the batteries into systems that can be attached to the ailing U.S. power grid. In July, Peak announced their plan to build a very large facility to house its gigafactory to build battery packs in California. They plan to churn out 4 gigawatt hours of batteries a year, which is 40 times the 100 megawatt hours a year that the company currently produces.
In the U.S., the business of grid-scale energy storage in batteries is dominated by Tesla's energy division. The unit, which uses conventional lithium-ion batteries, is the fastest-growing part of the company and creates systems designed for large-scale energy storage on power grids. Peak wants to capture a big slice of the addressable market for the giant Megapack battery packs Tesla cells by providing sodium-ion systems that are significantly cheaper, more reliable, and less likely to catch fire. All lithium-ion batteries can catch fire, a process called thermal runaway, which can affect these packs. Lithium fires are rare, but they do happen.
Yeah, like at our son's shop.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sodium batteries' competitive edge for stationary storage applications such as data center backup power systems in place of diesel generators and power grids in place of natural gas plants lies in part in their less intensive cooling needs. China dominates production of the materials that go into today's leading battery technologies that are based on lithium-ion chemistry, even though the technology was perfected in the U.S.
Yep, and there are drawbacks, though, as with any new technology. Sodium batteries present a lower energy density, and they're about 3 times heavier and physically larger than the lithium batteries. As a result, sodium batteries store roughly 30 to 40% less energy per pound than lithium. But I do believe this is going to be overcome as the technology matures. So,
Very good.
All right. Selling a stock at a loss is something most investors try to avoid. But when a position is not working, selling at the right time can actually help your finances. The tax rule around capital losses is designed to reduce the damage by letting you use those losses to cut your tax bill. The key idea is simple. The IRS levies taxes on your net investment result for the year, not on each trade in isolation. That means losses from selling stock can offset gains and, in some cases, even reduce your regular income. Knowing how and when to sell a losing stock makes a real difference. A stock loss only matters for taxes once you sell. If you sell your shares, if your shares drop in value but stay in your portfolio, the loss is unrealized and has no tax impact. The moment you sell it, though, for less than what you paid, the loss becomes realized and eligible for tax reporting.
This distinction matters because many investors hold on to losing stocks hoping they bounce back without considering the tax value of selling. Sometimes taking the loss and moving on can be a smarter financial decision. When you sell stock at a loss, that loss offsets capital gains dollar for dollar. If you made money selling one stock but lost money on another, the IRS allows you to subtract the loss from the gain before calculating taxes. For example, if you sold one stock for a $5,000 gain and another for a $2,000 loss, you are taxed only on the $3,000 net gain. This can significantly reduce what you owe, especially if the gains are taxed at higher rates. If your losses fully wipe out your gains, you will not owe any capital gains tax for that year.
One important exception, which is the IRS wash sale rule. Randy, this rule is a pain in the neck, isn't it?
It is.
Especially when you're a trader in a portfolio.
Exactly.
Got to watch out for triggering wash sales in people's accounts. But if a stock is sold at a loss and bought again, or any other substantially identical security is bought within 30 days before or after the sale, the loss cannot be deducted immediately. Instead, the disallowed loss is added to the cost basis of the new shares, delaying the tax benefit rather than eliminating it. Selling stocks at a loss becomes even more powerful when losses exceed gains. The IRS allows you to deduct up to $3,000 of excess capital losses each year against your ordinary income, such as wages or business income. If you're married and filing separately, that limit is reduced to $1,500. Any losses beyond that amount are not lost. They carry forward to future years and can be used again under the same rules. This means one bad investing year can lower your taxes for several years into the future.
Before selling a stock at a loss, it helps to know how long you've held it. Stocks sold 1 year or less fall under short-term rules, while those held longer than a year are considered long-term. Short-term gains are taxed at a higher regular income tax rates. Long-term gains usually get lower tax rates. Losses must first offset gains in the same category. Short-term losses can be offset against short-term gains, and long-term losses against long-term gains.
Yeah, many investors use the strategy called tax loss harvesting. This means selling losing stocks deliberately to reduce your taxes while keeping the overall investment plan on track. This approach is used near year end when investors review their gains and losses. Selling underperforming stocks can lower the tax bill and free up cash to reinvest in stronger opportunities. The goal is not to trade excessively or chase losses. It's about recognizing when a stock no longer fits your strategy and making a smart tax smart exit instead of holding out hope that the stock is going to recover.
Selling a stock at a loss only helps if it's reported correctly. All realized gains and losses must be reported using Form 8949 and Schedule D. Carry forward losses must also be tracked and included on a future tax return until they are fully used. Missing a year of reporting can delay or even cost you the deduction. Keeping clean records ensures you get the full benefit of selling at a loss. Selling a losing stock doesn't mean you failed as an investor. Sometimes it is a practical move that protects your overall financial health. By realizing a loss, you can reduce current or future taxes and put your money to better use elsewhere.
Absolutely. Very good. So, a recent CNBC segment on the buy now, pay later trend put it plainly. 29% of buy now, pay later users said they use these short-term installment loans to buy groceries, more than double the rate of 2 years ago. Buy now, pay later, BNPL, was a product built for one-off discretionary purchases like a couch, a flight, a pair of shoes you didn't really need but really loved. The classic pitch is pay in 4. Split a $200 purchase into 4 $50 payments over 6 weeks, no interest. That's a fine deal if you make every payment on time. But it was never designed to cover groceries, and now nearly a third of BNPL users are now leaning on it for exactly that. That's not a quirky consumer trend. That's a warning light.
That's insane.
It is. I can't get over this.
I know. Adding to the concern is how the product has quietly changed. Now, instead of 4 payments with no interest, as many as 36% of BNPL plans are now interest-bearing, some with biweekly payments and rates as high as 36%.
That's worse than a credit card.
Yep. A far cry from the 0% forever image most people still associate with the category. And then there are the late fees, which are where the real trap lives. A $7 late fee on a $50 installment that was only ever supposed to be outstanding for 2 weeks sounds small in dollar terms, but if you annualize it, and the math turns ugly real fast. It's the equivalent of an interest rate of 100% APR or higher, because you have late fees that stack on top of each other. Stack a second missed payment on top of the first, and the ratio gets worse, not better.
And that is a debt spiral that you
slope.
could hardly ever get out of.
Correct.
I find this.
Well, it's like you and I were talking about the other day. If you put your groceries on this,
Yep.
and you're still paying for that round of groceries next month when you need to buy groceries again,
Or the next week.
right?
It just adds up so fast.
Correct.
But surely everyone using BNPL are making all their payments on time, right?
Right.
It's not like these are payday lenders notorious for trapping people who are already out of options in triple-digit APR loans that they can't climb out of. Unfortunately, it is just like that. In fact, in the past year, 47% of BNPL users say that they've been late on a payment. It's not just groceries either. 18% of BNPL users say that they've used it for car repairs and 13% for
gosh.
rent. BNPL isn't replacing discretionary spending anymore. In a growing number of households, it's replacing the emergency fund.
And that is terrible. There is a survey conducted by the Urban Institute where more than 10,000 adults disclosed that they had used Buy Now, Pay Later to buy groceries. As a matter of fact, 63% of working age people used a credit card to buy groceries last year. Most paid it off, but more than 1 in 4 couldn't even afford to make the minimum payment. Zoom out further, and the backdrop explains why. Grocery prices are up 32% over the last 5 years. SNAP enrollment has dropped by nearly 5 million people over the past year. And after new work requirements cut some of the households off from benefits they had previously relied on. Total U.S. household debt hit a staggering $18.8 trillion in the first quarter of 2026, up roughly $740 billion from a year earlier. None of that is about BNPL specifically. It's just the weather system that BNPL for groceries is happening inside of.
I wonder if car prices aren't a big part of this whole problem.
Well, think about the insurance. Maybe not directly the car, but those had gone up so high.
Right.
But
Rents,
data shows
much.
data shows that people are hanging onto their cars longer. But the insurance to drive any car has just gone through the roof.
And
Right.
the car payments themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all gone up so much.
Yes. So if you're using BNPL occasionally for something you could already afford in cash, a planned purchase, spread out for convenience, that's a reasonable use of the product, especially at true 0% interest. But using it repeatedly for groceries is a disaster. Call 211. It's the fastest way to find local emergency food and rent assistance, no matter your starting point. Food banks typically require no income verification. You just show up. It's also worth checking SNAP and WIC eligibility, even if you assume you don't qualify. And if the debt itself is the real problem, a nonprofit credit counselor through the NFCC is a legitimate next call, not a last resort. Please track your spending for 30 days and see where your money is going. You may have subscriptions you need to cancel or are buying things that are not needs. Get serious about this now before you dig a deeper hole.
Absolutely. When I'm at the store, I find it interesting to see what other people have in their carts. And I'm not judging. I'm just curious. It is amazing to me that so many carts are filled with expensive prepackaged foods and sodas hung over the rail of the cart and lots of junk food in there. So if you're using Buy Now, Pay Later to buy your groceries, you really need to reevaluate what you're buying. The use of these loans is simply making you poor every time you use them and don't pay them off according to the terms of the contract. So,
I really hate that.
yes, terrible slippery slope.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Ford's new electric truss that will cost just $28,350. It is an extremely expensive bet by Ford on a very cheap truck. Ford is the undisputed global leader in pickup trucks. The F-Series is the best-selling vehicle in the U.S. of any kind and has been so since 1981. Its latest pickup, the Ford Fathom, will cost a downright cheap $28,300, like I said. And as vehicles go, it could be set up to be a massive seller. And it is absolutely needed. Ford has spent billions beyond the usual cost developing the Fathom, a smaller electric pickup truck that goes on sale in 2027. But there's no current U.S. market segment along these lines of electric pickups smaller than the regular size truck, but still with room for a family of 5. If it bombs, it's not just money down the drain. The truck becomes a cautionary tale for others.
Despite the small footprint of the vehicle, the implications are huge. Coming out with any new car can typically cost a major company around $2 billion. But the research and development to bring such an inexpensive EV to the market has taken much more than that. The Fathom and the cars descended from it has already cost Ford around $5 billion.
Ouch.
Then there's the low price. Unlike luxury cars, which can be sold for thousands of dollars more than they cost to be assembled, cheap cars need to sell in extraordinarily high volumes to make the same amount of money. That is enough pressure to put on one little pickup truck. Now add in the fact that it's all electric in a segment that simply does not exist in the U.S.
Ford has been down this road before. When it was announced in 2021, the Ford F-150 Lightning was supposed to make the EV as mainstream as the Ford F-150. Originally priced at around $40,000 in the first half of 2022, Ford expected to sell them hand over fist. But by 2023, that base price had jumped to nearly $60,000. Would-be buyers, skeptical of new technology and a high price, responded accordingly. Sales never climbed higher than the 33,000 and some change units that were sold in 2024, and Ford ended production of the F-150 Lightning in December of 2025. And things have only gotten tougher for EVs since that time. The Trump administration and Republicans in Congress eliminated a federal tax credit of $7,500 for EVs last October. EVs tend to be expensive too, with Cox Automotive reporting that the average electric car sold for around $56,000 in June, which is nearly $7,000 more than the average car overall. Eliminating the tax credit didn't kill the EV market entirely, however, and EV sales in the U.S. actually rose 15% from the first quarter to the second quarter of this year.
Another option is the Ford Maverick, a small pickup truck that went on sale in 2019 and comes in both gasoline and hybrid variants. It starts at $28,000, just $200 cheaper than the upcoming Fathom, and sold about 155,000 units last year. That might seem like small numbers compared to the 800,000 Ford F-Series trucks sold in 2025, but raw numbers don't tell the whole story. Ford has sold out its Maverick production run for multiple years in a row. The Maverick's core customer isn't a traditional pickup truck buyer, but someone who might be coming over from an equally affordable car like a Honda Civic. Ford CEO Jim Farley says that he sees a lot of growth in the lower end of the market. Everything that we've seen with escalating fuel prices in the U.S. is reinforcing our choices.
Yeah, I've ridden in the Ford Maverick. We have a friend that owns one, and it's a hybrid. So it's not this Fathom is completely electric. And I think that's going to be the differentiation that people are going to make. I think people like the hybrid a lot better than they trust electrics. So anyway.
Where are you going to charge it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right. There's a whole lot of other costs that
go along
making it, or bringing it into your house. While Ford has scaled back plans for the EV production, the company hasn't abandoned them entirely. The Fathom is the first product built on what Ford calls the Universal Electric Vehicle Platform, which will be the basic architect for producing multiple upcoming electric cars, from compacts to vans. That should help make up for some of the Fathom's development cost. And even though the Fathom is aimed at the lower end of the market, it'll have numerous features to help appeal to those buyers from other brands. It'll have a big screen, touchscreen on the dash. An optional battery pack should take its range to over 300 miles. And every Fathom, even the most bare bones, will have the hardware and the sensors necessary to run the Blue Cruise, which is the company's software that enables drivers to take their hands off the wheel while driving down the highway.
I know I sound paranoid, but I don't like the taking hands off the wheel option. I mean, how do you know who should use this and who shouldn't? That means a 12-year-old could drive the car without even being able to see the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. That really is.
I mean, really.
But I looked this up and I found out that the Fathom will not be fully autonomous. The driver supervision is required. Now, the items it listed as variables to determine how much the driver is involved is based on a couple of things. And the first one is location. It's location dependent. So there's areas that it will not let you do autonomous driving, okay? And it's tied to the Blue Zone availability. So if the satellites don't project into, say, some rural areas, it won't let you do it there either. And the actual distance before needing to touch the wheel will depend on your route and the Blue Zone length in your area. All right, so.
And Ford has emphasized that its low price wasn't coming from where customers would notice. Instead, it's a result of those manufacturing processes that Ford spent billions developing. Affordability is one of Ford's top priority right now, not just in the electric vehicle part of the business, but across the board.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
So we started this article last week, but we ran out of time. And the data is important, so we have brought it back this week to go over again. The question is collision insurance still worth it on older cars? No matter how old your car is, you need collision insurance if you hold on to an auto loan or a lease. But what if you're not leasing your vehicle, and what if your loan is paid off? Although collision insurance isn't mandated in any state, it can prove valuable if you're the at-fault driver in an accident. Whether it's worth the price depends on multiple factors, including how much it would cost to fix the damage, what you can afford to pay for the repairs, your car's value, your deductible, and more, which is what we're going to discuss here in the next couple minutes. A lot of people don't understand what collision insurance is and why it's important. Collision insurance will help cover vehicle repair or replacement costs if you're in a collision with another car, get hit by an uninsured driver, roll your vehicle, or collide with a fixed object like a telephone pole or a mailbox. But if you're in a crash in which you are at fault and don't have collision coverage, you're on your own. The entire cost of fixing or replacing your vehicle will fall on you.
Interestingly, no matter where you live in the U.S., collision coverage is not required by law. However, if you lease or finance your car purchase, the lender will insist you have collision coverage to protect their collateral, which is the vehicle. When you buy collision coverage, you don't select policy limits like you do for liability coverage. Instead, the insurance company agrees to pay for repair or replacement costs up to your car's actual cash value at the time a covered incident occurs. The catch is that the value amount isn't what you owe on the car, but the car's market or book value at the time of the crash. For example, if you get into an accident with full coverage and your car's book value or worth is $17,000, they'll pay for up to $17,000 in repairs minus your deductible or in replacement costs. But if your car is only worth $5,000, they'll pay up to $5,000. What you may still owe on a loan doesn't enter into the insurance provider's decision making.
Yep. And here's a tip for you. GAP, Guaranteed Asset Protection. Insurance is a separate insurance policy covering the difference between your car's book value and the balance remaining on the car loan. It ensures that if your car is totaled in a covered crash, the settlement will cover any outstanding loan balance. To me, this is a good deal considering that many vehicles, especially the used ones, depreciate quicker than what is owed on the vehicle. But there are a few solid reasons to drop collision coverage on an older car, but it's a bit complicated. Moreover, you may be surprised by some of the traditional factors that no longer prominently are used in determining a car's value. Age and mileage are no longer foolproof indicators of the need for collision insurance on an older car. Both are key Both were key in the calculation, but insurers have realized that some older cars hold their value. For example, if your car is 10 years old and still worth $10,000, it's probably worth paying a few $100 for a year for collision coverage. On the flip side, if it is 7 years old and only worth $3,000, keeping collision insurance may not make sense.
If you keep your car long enough, there will come a time when you need to ask yourself if maintaining collision coverage is worth the cost year after year. Also, keep in mind that the amount of your deductible will be subtracted from the claim settlement. In other words, if you need to file a collision claim, you must pay the deductible before your insurance coverage kicks in. When the cost of the premium plus your deductible is close to the value of your car, it might not be worth having it anymore. Doing the math of the cost of the annual collision premium over the years and the impact of your deductible on any potential claim settlement from your insurance provider may prove that paying for collision insurance is basically a waste of money. For example, let's say your collision coverage on a car with a book value of $2,000 costs $400 a year, based on a $1,000 deductible. If you need to file a claim, you will pay first the $1,000 deductible out of pocket. Therefore, no matter the repair or replacement cost, the maximum amount of your insurance that your insurance provider would cover is another $1,000. Subtracting the cost of your insurance premium for just that year further reduces the net value of that $1,000 maximum settlement to $600.
In that scenario, you paid $400 to net $600. The $2,000 minus the $1,000 is the $400, giving you a net of $600. Next year, when your car is worth even less, you will shell out another $400. You must then ask yourself, when does this stop making sense? A good rule of thumb suggested by experts at the Insurance Information Institute is that if your car is worth less than 10 times the premium, purchasing coverage may not be cost effective. For example, let's say that instead of $2,000, the value of your vehicle is $7,500. In that case, the insurance company will pay up to $6,500, the $7,500 value minus the deductible for repairs. Even deducting the cost of that year's premium from the settlement amount still makes sense to keep the collision protection in place. If your car is totaled in an accident and you have collision coverage, the insurance company will reimburse you for the actual cash value of the vehicle immediately before the accident. To determine the car's value, insurers look at multiple factors, including the make, model, age, mileage, options, and wear and tear. There's some subjectivity involved in this process. However, Kelley Blue Book monitors used cars prices from around the country. With this mountain of transactional data, it can provide a fairly accurate snapshot of a used vehicle's worth at any given time.
Yep. And most settlements go smoothly, but if you're unhappy with the insurance company's offer, you could negotiate. What you want to make sure that you scrutinize the value based on the features or the options that you have on the car. For example, if you have a pickup truck with a bed cover and running boards that were aftermarket additions and they're in good shape even after the accident, and perhaps a new set of tires, you can ask for additional money in the estimate. Now, if you can't buy a similar car or in a similar condition for what the insurance company is offering, let them know. Explain what similar cars are selling for in your area. To find out your car's fair market value range, check the Kelley Blue Book value tool. This tool lets you enter your car's year, make, and model, and you'll get a good idea of what it's worth.
Yep. The point of negotiating isn't to make you whole again. If you're unable to reach an agreement, let the insurance company know you want a third-party appraisal. Most personal auto policies have an appraisal clause that says the insurance company is required to hire a third-party appraiser to show how they arrived at the settlement amount. Estimating an average cost for collision coverage is virtually impossible. Insurance providers determine premiums on a case-by-case basis because there are so many variables, including book value of your car, repair and replacement costs, availability of replacement parts, your age, your driving record, and your credit score. Yes, you heard that correctly. Your credit score can have a major impact on your car insurance premiums. Your credit score goes to the responsibility of the individual. They've proven that a lower credit score is one of the factors of inattentive driving. We've discussed this before. If you feel that your rates are on the high side, I would recommend shopping around at least every couple years, maybe more often than that, if you've been working on increasing your credit score. And don't feel obligated to stay with a particular company. All carrier rates go up and down over time. Okay, have you changed jobs and not rolled your old 401k into your current plan? Here's the problem. Sherry met with a woman who had changed jobs multiple times, and every time she moved, she left her 401k behind. The problem is, if the balance is under $7,000, the plan will move the account to cash. And this was her situation. So she wasn't earning anything during the years that she left the accounts behind. Here are your options if you're changing jobs. 1, leave it with your former employer. If your vested balance is at least $7,000, federal law allows you to keep your 401k in your old plan. You can no longer contribute, but your investments continue to grow tax deferred, and the account remains protected under ERISA rules. This option may be suitable if the plan offers low-cost investment options.
I would add that you need to keep an eye on it to ensure it's performing well. The next option is to roll it over into an individual retirement account or an IRA. Rolling it over to an IRA gives you more control over investment choices and may reduce fees. This option preserves the tax-deferred status of your retirement savings. Or you could roll it over to a new employer's 401k plan if your new employer offers a 401k. You can consolidate your old accounts into the new plan. This keeps your retirement savings in one place and maintains tax-deferred growth. The worst option is to cash out your 401k. You can withdraw your funds, but if you are under 59.5, the IRS generally imposes income tax plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty unless you qualify for an exception such as separation after age 55, disability, or certain medical expenses. Cashing out reduces your retirement savings and potential future income.
Yeah, let me clarify a point. Corey mentioned separation after the age of 55 as an exemption to the 10-year or 10% early withdrawal penalty. This is not a marital separation. What he's referring to is the rule of 55 that applies to certain employer retirement plans after you leave your employer. In IRS language, it generally means you are no longer working for that company because you're retired, resigned, or were laid off or terminated. What you can do is take withdrawals as needed to cover your expenses, but you need to report them correctly on your tax return. Please discuss this with your CPA before you start making these withdrawals. The other thing to be careful of is not to drain this account. You build up this account to support you in your golden years. One other point is that the rule of 55 does not apply to IRAs. Many people nearing retirement mistakenly roll their 401ks into an IRA immediately after leaving their employment. So if you're between ages 55 and 59.5, you may need the money. It is often worth considering whether to leave some of the money or all of the funds in the 401k until after age 59. Once rolled into an IRA, the rule of 55 no longer applies, and there are no penalty-free withdrawals before the age of 59.5.
I've only seen a few cases, good grief, where cashing a 401k made sense, and in each case, it was to pay off debt. The key is to determine what your income is going to be in retirement and what your expenses will be. This is really, really important. You need to look at the numbers to see what decision works for you. Every situation is unique. If you have a pension and Social Security and can pay off all debt, paying off this debt may be the only way you can retire. Or you can work longer, which is what I would recommend. But like I said, every situation is different.
You're right, Sherry. And we are living longer now than ever. So you can continue to work, delay taking Social Security, and pay off your debt. That is usually the best choice. But the numbers have to work.
So last year, a woman came to see me, and she had changed jobs 7 times. And every time she did this, she left her 401k in the old company plan. She thought there would be some easy way to roll them into her current plan, but the advisor over her current 401k plan told her she had to find the account statements. So she came to me for help. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to help her locate statements, and because her account balances were under $7,000, the 401k automatically moved her money to cash, like we just talked about, when she left the job. So she made nothing all those years. So if you have old 401k plans, please hunt them down and roll them into your current 401k or move them into an IRA with an advisor that can help provide financial planning and retirement advice.
Which leads me to talk about what we do. We don't talk enough about what we do and how we can help you, so here it goes. If you call and make an appointment with one of our financial advisors, understand that this is a confidential appointment and that we're not going to try and sell you anything. Instead, one of our assistants will send you a form to fill out that will show us your age, savings, investments, income, expenses, and debt so that when we meet with you, we can look at the total picture and provide you with sound advice.
But before we go over forms and numbers, we want to know you and your financial life. Are you married or single? Still have children living at home? If you're getting ready to retire, we need to look at how much you've saved, or will you have a pension? Will you be debt-free? Have you looked at what your Social Security will be and how long before you plan to retire? This may sound overwhelming, but when you make your appointment, we send you a simple form to complete so we can see your total financial situation.
Yep, and then once we get to know you and your situation, we can start running numbers. Should you wait to retire and let your Social Security benefit and investment balances grow? Are there things you're paying for that you no longer need, like life insurance? What financial changes will you make in retirement so that the numbers work, or is that even an issue? But the biggest thing is we need to have an accurate overall picture of your personal financial situation before we can make any recommendations.
Yeah, and the better the data you provide, the better and more accurate our advice will be. And these appointments are absolutely free. So if you would like to talk through your retirement plans with us, give us a call at 478-922-8100 and schedule an appointment with one of our financial advisors at either Macon or Warner Robins. And you can find out more about us by looking at retirerelax.com.
It's easy.
Okay, how caregiving can blow a hole in retirement savings. For the past decade, Brian and Rose Armstrong have been full-time caregivers for their grandson, who is now age 11. The financial toll on their retirement savings is a grim reality for the 66-year-olds who retired 2 years ago. Folks like the Armstrongs, who are caregiving for an aging parent, spouse, or other family member, face greater financial strain, lower retirement confidence, and more worry about the future, and millions of people are in the same boat. A staggering 63 million Americans, which is nearly 1 in 4 adults, provide unpaid care to an adult with health or functional needs, or to a child with a serious medical condition or disability, according to AARP. That's up from 53 million in 2020.
And the numbers will only increase. People often have little choice, but there are financial repercussions for retirement, especially one that can span 3 decades or more. Caregiving is often discussed as a family, health, or workplace issue, but this research shows it is also an important retirement security issue too. The big issue is that if you're not yet retired, caregiving can take time away from work, which then can prevent you from building up savings. And you're also more likely to retire earlier than you expect. Even if your retirement savings were on track to that point, that's going to really put you at a disadvantage when it comes to your retirement finances. It's not as uncommon as you might think, and I know we see it a lot with the people who come in for advice.
A large percentage of retirees, regardless of whether they are caregivers, leave the workforce earlier than planned. The 3 biggest reasons are their own health, a job loss, or caregiving for a family member. Caregivers are more likely to retire earlier than planned because of their responsibilities, while non-caregivers often quit because they were offered an early retirement package from their employer. You might have guessed the majority of caregiving duties falls to women. Data shows that more than 6 in 10 caregivers are female. Women face many hurdles that threaten their retirement security. They live longer than their male counterparts, and they need more income to cover those years. The impact of caregiving responsibilities on top of that causes them to save less, which means recovering financially is difficult at best and probably unlikely for many of them in this situation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a third of caregivers report less than $10,000 in savings and investments. They're also more likely than non-caregivers to struggle with debt, mental health strain, and lower confidence about their long-term financial future.
So, what are the options? Talk with a family about splitting up caregiver responsibilities, such as feeding, bathing, cooking, housekeeping, and grocery shopping. Get as many people involved as possible and make a plan. I constantly see that one person in a family is doing all the caregiving, and it is just wrong. Everyone can help in any way, needs to help, period.
Yep, you're right. We have seen large families that where just one person stepped up to act as the caregiver. And the problem with that is that caregiving is so much for one person. Caregiving is physically, emotionally, and financial strain can become overwhelming. Our research shows that caregiver burden can negatively affect the health, quality of life, and the well-being. Sharing responsibilities reduces the stress and helps the primary caregiver remain effective and healthy.
You know, another thing to consider is that when several people are involved in the caregiving of a person, the person being cared for stands a good chance of receiving better care. When there are multiple people involved, important needs are less likely to be overlooked. And care recipient also benefits from more social interaction, emotional support, and advocacy.
One other thing, when different people are involved, each could have a set of unique skills that benefit the person being cared for. For instance, one person may be good at organization and finances, one better at medical issues, and another may be better suited to handle housekeeping and transportation. The team approach really seems better for everyone.
All right. But the family has to be able to work together. My father's brothers could not agree on a lot. And often the two brothers were there with their hand out instead of a helping hand. On the other side of the family, Mom's brother and sister, one lived in Melbourne, Florida, and the other one lived in North Carolina. And they could not be there on a regular basis, which my grandparents lived in Zebulon, Georgia. So they took turns coming into town every 3 months. So basically, my mom would do 100% of the care work and then have 2 months off. But 100% of the finances and the medical coordination fell on my mom, whether she was down there or not. And she did a great job, but she was also exhausted all the time.
You know, the question should not be who is the caregiver, but rather how can each family member contribute? Even small contributions from several people can significantly reduce the stress on the primary caregiver and improve the quality of care to the one receiving care. Even if they just went down there, had gone down there for 1 day a week or 1 day, 2 days a month, and like cleaned the house, did laundry, did the yard. I mean, there's so much. I mean, people don't realize until you get into this how much you have on you.
Yeah, and we have an article on a special report on our website about the caregivers, the care for caregivers.
Yes.
And it's really a good article. So if you're a caregiver and you're worn down, you probably need to download that special report and read it, because I think you're going to find some things in there that can benefit you.
So our website is retirerelax.com and click on special reports.
Yep. All right. We want to make you aware of a new live app that is getting a lot of people into financial hot water. The app is called Whatnot, and the 7-year-old company is one of the fastest growing shopping platforms in America, online shopping platforms. But there is a catch. It allows people to bid around the clock on trading cards, squishy toys, designer fashions, and instant ramen, which are all auctioned off in high energy shows within the app. This platform has tapped into the addictive qualities of social media with opportunities to feed you in an algorithm-controlled scroll. Often users don't search for a particular item, but instead hope to hit on something just by being on the app at the right time.
The design supercharges traditional shopping sites such as eBay and Amazon with high-pressure countdown auctions, often run by hosts who urge buyers to bid higher and faster. The most feverish shows are built around breaks, where a person buys an opportunity to win an unknown, potentially valuable collectible. All the while, emotionally charged chat feeds can amp up the competition. Very little slows down a decision to spend, which comes with one swipe and no additional confirmation or checkout screen. Another kicker about the site is that the auction time does not give you enough time to look up the value of the item that are being auctioned. That's part of their model. Rarely, if ever, will they tell you the next item that is going to be up for auction. They just show the next collectible and they start the bidding.
And let me interrupt you for a second. One of the things I read on this program here is that you can just simply click a button and it will automatically bid for you
up to that price.
Well, if you get outbid, the minimum additional bid is set by you. Mm-hmm. But if somebody keeps outbidding you,
it'll just go up.
It'll just keep going up, and that's what gets a lot of people into trouble.
Mm-hmm. And I know for this site in particular, they have certain vendors will have just people in the chat to drive up the price.
That's right.
And then if they end up buying it, it's just into their own expenses, and they just put it back up for sale the next week.
Absolutely, yeah.
One gentleman highlighted in the Wall Street Journal report spent $1.362 million on baseball cards. This guy was addicted to the process used by the Whatnot platform. He had started with small purchases in 2024 with a few $100s a bid, but by the end of January 2025, he was spending as much as $12,000 a day.
That's just insane.
When he nabbed an undervalued card, he tried to replicate that exhilarating feeling by bidding in more auctions. When he blew hundreds on a dud, he kept participating, trying to recoup. which is a problem with regular Vegas-style gambling. He would sell some cards to cover losses, but couldn't keep up with the pace of his spending. He just kept justifying to himself to spend more money.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when you were describing that situation. Is it's just like somebody at the slot machine that, they've lost hundreds of dollars, and they're like, one more, and then all of a sudden they're thousands down.
I know this machine is going to win. I just feel it.
Right. It's a sick cycle. So within a month, all this guy's personal credit cards were maxed out, and he owed friends and other lenders who had approved him when he had a sterling credit history. One night, when one of his favorite sellers urged him to join, he typed his employer's corporate card into Whatnot's payment page. It just gets darker and darker for this guy. Soon after, his wife confronted him after noticing pages missing from a credit report that he had doctored to hide the loans. Ultimately, he came clean. When he downloaded his full history from his Whatnot account, it added up to hundreds of purchases. The grand total, like Corey said, over $1.3 million. As you can imagine, the reckoning was swift. He had to resign from his job, and his marriage fell apart. To repay his former employer and his creditors, he emptied his retirement account and sold his house, his car, and the baseball cards that he had purchased on the platform. This guy lost everything.
Everything.
Sadly, he wasn't completely done with Whatnot. This year, he has spent more than $37,000 with money borrowed from a friend and credit cards he had worked to pay down. Whatnot now hosts more than 550,000 hours of live shows each week, which can be seen on the many auction rooms on the platform. Think about that. That equates to more than 78,000 hours of live auction broadcasts per day. As they say, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Now there are several competitors opening similar platforms, and the market is growing fast. That said, please be aware that this could be a financial slippery slope. The problem with sites like this is that you don't have time to research a product's actual value. Therefore, you are bidding blind, and it is addictive for many.
Yep.
And I have a friend that for a while was buying cards from this app, and he probably spent close to $300 for roughly $200 worth of cards. However, once he got everything shipped in and saw that he was down, he went back to the sellers, and he just sat around for free entry raffles until he was at break even. So I guess that to get people onto your auction, they'll have free raffles that anyone watching can be a part of. And he had 2 phones going, and he sat in raffles until he was break even, and then he uninstalled the app.
Makes you just miss the good old days of just eBay. Just simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Here's my price, and if I don't win it, then I don't lose any money.
That's right.
If I do win it, I put a max price in. But this is all just goes in line too with all this like legalized gambling that's now, but you got Kalshi, the predictive markets, sports betting, all this stuff that's so easy to do online now. And it makes you realize reading stories like this that there's a reason it was all outlawed at one time in the first place.
Yep.
Right? Because people are losing the shirt off their back.
And it's not like Corey's friends. That one guy who lost $1.3 million. He had no restraint. He had to have that thrill. At least your friend had a little
once he
common
came
sense.
to the realization that he was down, he's like, okay, well, that's enough for me. Like he could have had the same things that he has in his pocket, but just paid $100 less.
Right.
Right.
And that's something I want to add is that if there are things that are being auctioned for too much, if you comment on the item's real value in the chat, they will ban you from communicating with other bidders.
Really?
So if there's stuff if they're doing like 100 of something and people are bidding $10 and you put, hey, you can buy these online for $6, they will remove you from the chat, remove what you said, and ban you from typing.
Man.
Oh, what a system.
Yeah.
And
What
it's
a system.
legal.
Yep.
And it's legal. Yep.
Oh, gosh. Just what we need is more people going broke.
Right. So in the last 2 years, we'll close out with this one. I've had to buy several vehicles for one reason or another, and I've had good luck with each of these purchases, fortunately. Each of the vehicles were used and often out of state, sight unseen. But one thing I've learned in my life is that if something seems too good to be true, kind of like on that website we were just talking about, then it probably is. I recently read a story about a Georgia woman who bought a new Hyundai from a dealership. She knew that when she found the vehicle, it was a good deal, which is why she proceeded with the purchase. She even called the dealership to confirm the price of the vehicle. The purchaser would not sign anything until she saw it in person. When the car finally arrived, the dealership told her she would pick it up that Friday. Well, the day before pickup, the dealership called and told her that they had mispriced the vehicle and the new price was thousands of dollars more than they had agreed upon. So, what's the lesson in all this? Is a verbal price agreement actually binding in Georgia? According to the Georgia Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, verbal contracts for transactions over $500 are generally unenforceable unless specific circumstances make them enforceable. As such, the buyer's verbal contract may not have to be honored. So be careful about deals that are too good to be true, especially with dealerships.
Absolutely.
Right.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about them by visiting their website, retirerelax.com. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like them to cover in next week's broadcast, you can email Randy at rfmoney.com. They look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.